Let's say you're happy with the artwork you just made, but you wish you could do something more with it. Give it new life. Make it come alive. Like this. That's right. In this quick tutorial, I'll teach you how to easily animate your background illustrations and add cool camera movements and motions to make them look 3D. The process is honestly so easy. You don't need any fancy animation softwares or any prior knowledge of animation, just the tools you're already familiar with. In this case, just Photoshop. Alright, let's do this. So I recently painted this Great Wall of China, and man, it took a long time. And the PSD had hundreds of layers. But I simplified the file down to just a few layers in the end by merging all the extra rendering layers, clipping masks, adjustment layer effects, and groups. For example, the farthest layer, which is the sky, will be the bottommost layer. The nearest object, the foreground part of the wall, will be the topmost layer. And everything else in between will come in that order of stacking, from far away to close by. The clouds, then the distant mountains near the horizon, nearer mountains, hills with the wall far behind, the wall gets closer, the closest tower and surrounding trees, and so on. Pro tip, if you can learn how to properly organize your layers, arrange them in proper order of convenience, life is gonna be so much easier for you. And as for this background art, I was able to create this thanks to this amazing online class called 2D Backgrounds, Create Stunning Scenes for Your Animations by Tonico Pantoja on Skillshare. Not only did I learn some very helpful techniques for painting outdoor background environments, but also found some great tips on layer management. You should definitely check it out on Skillshare, which happens to be the sponsor for today's video. Joining Skillshare has been one of the best things I've done recently. It's a platform where world-class creatives teach. As a member, you get to learn from the best, build connections, learn at your own pace whenever you want. And the best part, the first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan this QR code to join Skillshare will receive a 1-month free trial, plus 20% off their first payment. And this offer is valid only for this month in November. So what are you waiting for? Get started today. So now that we have our layers simplified and organized, it's time for the next step. I'll right click on each layer and convert them to smart objects. Repeat this with all the layers, one by one, except for the bottommost fill layer, because I don't need to animate this. If you want to add motion to any layer on Photoshop, you need to convert them into smart object. That's the basic criteria. Awesome. Now I'll go to the window menu and select timeline. This will bring up the timeline panel at the bottom. Now I'll click on create video timeline. Great. Now the left area of the timeline looks a lot similar to our layers panel. All the layers will show up here in the proper order of stacking. Now starting from the bottom, I'll go to each layer and click on the down arrow on the left to reveal the keyframe section. I'll repeat this process for each layer all the way to the top. Awesome. Next I'll zoom out a little and adjust the work area or total length of our animation by dragging this end marker to the left to around the 3-second mark, and click play and let it buffer. No animation yet. 3 seconds should be good for a subtle camera track or zoom in effect. Imagine something like a drone shot. Cool. Now I'll bring the timestamp to the very starting point of the timeline, which is the 0-second mark. And then I'll go to the keyframe section and click on this tiny stopwatch icon on the left side of transform. Now you'll see this yellow diamond dot next to it. This means that a keyframe has been set, marking the starting position of our animation. We'll go to the ending point later. That's where all the magic happens. But first, let's repeat this for all the other layers. One by one, I'll set a starting keyframe for transform for each layer. Quick and easy, a very simple, no-brainer process so far. Alright, once that's done, I'll move the timestamp to the ending point of our work area, which is the 3-second mark. I'll expand the canvas space a bit by shrinking down the timeline panel. And then I'll go to our layers panel, go to the sky layer at the bottom, select it, then go all the way up to the topmost layer, click and hold shift on the keyboard and select the topmost layer. This will select all the layers. Now I'll press Ctrl+T on the keyboard to go to the free transform mode. Alright, now the real fun is about to begin. Just one basic idea that you should understand now is that since it's a zoom in effect or the camera is moving closer towards the subject, the ending point of the animation will have a higher scale than the starting point. Since our starting point is already defined and we're now at the end point, we're going to gradually scale everything up a little. I'll decide on a middle point for the scale up transformation, maybe somewhere around here, and then press Alt on the keyboard and slightly scale everything up uniformly. Hit enter. This will automatically set a keyframe on the timeline for every layer. Great. Next I'll press Ctrl on the keyboard and click on the sky layer. This will remove the sky layer from selection. The logic here is that the farthest objects seem to move less compared to the objects nearer to us that seem to move a lot more in comparison. Now with the sky layer deselected, I'll once again scale everything up a little, press enter. Now I'll press Ctrl and deselect the cloud layer, zoom in a bit, press Ctrl plus T, set the midpoint, and scale things up a little by pressing Alt for uniform scale. Press enter. Next I'll similarly deselect the distant mountain layer and scale things up a little. Next I'll deselect the nearer mountains and scale things up a little. I'll keep repeating this for all the layers as we keep moving up the layer panel. Now that we have reached the topmost layer with the foreground part of the wall selected, I'll select the midpoint and scale it up first. I'll zoom out a bit and then I'm also going to transform it in perspective by pressing Ctrl plus Alt plus Shift on the keyboard and then clicking and moving these bottom transform points on either side. And then press Shift and pull it downwards a bit and then a bit sideways. This will give an illusion of dynamic foreshortening. I'll do this with the whole overall wall and hills layer selected, some subtle foreshortening in perspective transform. Now let me slide the timestamp all the way to the starting point and whoa! What just happened? Yes, we just did that. I'll click on play, let it buffer a bit. Wow, it already looks cool. Even though a bit twitchy, I'll click play again and wow. Even though this is technically 2.5D, but just look at it. It still looks pretty 3D, right? And finally, I'll move back to the endpoint, go to the cloud layer, stretch it sideways a little, and then shift the clouds a bit to the left. This will give an illusion of moving clouds. Alright, get ready to see the results. I'll move the cursor to the starting point and click play. And this is how you can breathe fresh new life into your digital illustrations. Once you're happy with the result, go to the top right corner of the timeline panel and click on this 3 horizontal line icon, select render video. Now you can type the file name, select export folder location, set quality, frame rate and dimensions, but I'll keep them default as they are and click on render. Give it a few seconds or a couple of minutes depending on your PC specs and the rendered video should be ready in the selected location. If you found this tutorial helpful, hit the like button, share it with your friends, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more such cool tutorials. So that's all for now, see you on the next one. Peace.